So today you're here for something different, and I don't know if you're going to like it. I don't know if it's going to be a thing, but I think that you're going to like it. I like it. I think it's a good idea, and I don't know. We're going to figure all of that out. But I'm going to tell you more about what I don't know in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff.
Just like the street lights lit.
How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And as I said, we are doing something a little bit different today. So this is maybe, let's consider it a bonus video. Today we are going to be taking all three of the spinach soaps and putting them into one video, including the lather tests, and condensing them all quite a bit so we can still get a decent, shortish runtime out of it all, and talk about all of the benefits that we have discussed throughout all four of the videos for spinach in soaps as well as topically. And I want to do this all in one condensed video to give you guys one frame of reference that you can come back to if you need to, because I know that when I'm talking about these things throughout 2024 and year four's content, discussing any of the deep dives that we're doing for these products, I mentioned some things in one video and then I talk more in depth about it in another. And it can be kind of annoying for me, for sure, but also for you. And so I'm trying it this way and we're going to go with it and see how we like it. And then you guys can let me know if you would like at the end of these series. Because while I do want to kind of be doing this with you and getting your input and feedback as we go throughout any sort of deep dive investigation we're doing, I also want it to be easy at the end to just get the information. So anyway, let's get to the video. We're going to do all three of the soaps and the lather tests and talk about ultimately what I determined with the spinach in one video. So let's go there and do that.
They know we'll burn down the night.
So for the spinach soap deep dive, we ultimately ended up working with primarily the juice of the spinach. Now, the reason why we're doing that is because of the composition of spinach. Spinach is primarily water, coming in at like 91%. It also contains 4% of carbohydrates, 3% of proteins, and very little fat. So there wasn't going to be much of a benefit for us to actually use this within an infusion to sort of extract any of the fatty acids that you would find within spinach to use like you would within a rose or even within a coffee bean, both of which have significant amounts, or more significant rather, of oil. So with this, we're primarily working within the spinach juice, which is going to contain all of the things that we're going to reasonably care about within our soap making, with the exception of the infusions of the roughage of the fibrous materials into the soap oils themselves, but that's going to be primarily for color. Now, because of the vitamins and the nutrients and all of the minerals that exist within spinach juice, I needed to know what I was working with. And so this is just kind of what I do for every new thing that we're putting in and really studying in depth for all of our soaping journeys, is I'm testing the actual solution. So I put in a sodium hydroxide solution and then I put in a citric acid solution to neutralize the spinach juice itself and see the solids separate there. What this is also doing is neutralizing the oxalic acid that exists within spinach, as well as anything else potentially. So it is important when you are working with new ingredients within your soaps to pay attention to things like pH. This is actually one of the only times that pH is a real factor within the soap making process. It's not going to be the end result. That doesn't really tell you much about the bar functionally, knowing the pH of a finished bar. But what you are putting into your lye solution or putting into your soaps themselves, that pH can be important. When we're talking about citric acid, for example, that is an acid, it is acidic. And so when you put citric acid into your lye solution, what that's doing is consuming a portion of the lye that you would otherwise need for your soaps. thus resulting in an overly superfatted bar of soap. And so you do have to pay attention to the pH in these scenarios, which is why I run the tests and see just what we're working with. So primarily what we're going to be working with here is going to be a basically neutral solution. It's slightly alkaline, but not by much. And the acidic properties of spinach juice we will talk about a little bit more in a minute.
There's no room for doubt. No, we can't.
So 3 different pours for this. The first is going to be the spinach juice as a substitution for the water. The second will be the spinach juice within the traced batter. And the third soap will be the no spinach juice whatsoever, just relying on the infused oils that we did using the spinach roughage. Now, with all of this, the same recipe was used across the board. So it was 30% olive oil, which was the spinach infusion, 30% palm, 30% coconut oil, 10% apricot, just to make it a little fancy. Interesting here how different the colors are from one to the next, all based on how we incorporate it. So I do find that very, very fascinating. As far as the actual pour of the soap itself, no real differences. I ended up with thick batter throughout the entirety of all of this because I was working with very, very high heats. And that's really the only reason. But what we are looking at with the solids that separated from the majority water content in that spinach juice is really what we want to pay attention to for the overall soap performance. So spinach has a pretty high amount of folates, and so that's vitamin B9, which can be really, really great for all kinds of things, including, free radicals, both topically and not. Also a pretty high amount of vitamin C, which is going to be great for overall skin. A very, very high amount of vitamin K. And then we are also dealing with reasonably high amounts of magnesium, manganese, zinc, and calcium. Now, in the CMOS video, we did talk about that and how that's probably not going to be problematic for our end result of soaps because I was concerned ultimately that we would be creating essentially soap scum within our soaps because, as we know, hard water contains those minerals that we do not like within our soaps because it makes our soaps not lather, and instead the soap itself is going to bind to the minerals within the water, in the hard water, and it's going to create soap scum. So this is a bad idea. And we did find within the CMOS soap that there was no discernible difference. I would still recommend including sodium citrate or citric acid within your solutions if you're going to be working with a CMOS soap. But with this one, I don't think it's going to be necessary because spinach does contain a pretty high amount of oxalic acid. And I had queried in this as to whether or not oxalic acid could be a substitution for citric acid, and ultimately decided no, because while oxalic acid is good in cleaning and removing hard water deposits, hard water stains, it's not so great at just making sure that the soap itself or the hard water won't bind, the minerals won't bind to a surface. So ultimately, it's not the best idea. And in both cases, the oxalic acid is going to be such a slight amount within spinach that it's not going to matter either way.
We'll burn down the night. Only just like the
But because of this acidity, I definitely did want to pay attention to that and see what it would do ultimately within the soaps, which again is one of the reasons why I test everything and work to neutralize to see what I'm working with from a chemical perspective before I start including it into my soap. So end results of all of this was ultimately you can incorporate the spinach juice itself kind of any way that you wanted. The second way that I did this with just putting the spinach juice in a glycerin solution into the traced batter, it was messy and it didn't lead to the most beautiful bar during the cut, which you'll see in a minute, but it was a very gorgeous bar after a cure, which I thought was very cool. So we essentially created just massive colored glycerin rivers within all of it, and it was very, very striking when it was all said and done, which you will also see because we have the lather test coming up soon too. But this is what it looked like fresh, very, very messy. If you wanted to incorporate your spinach juice into your batters, obviously stir them in. I did not do that. I was going for a swirl. If you're going for a swirl and for a look like this, do it the way I did for sure. And as far as the actual oils that were infused with the spinach, again, this is just the waste, the cast off from the spinach juice itself. I don't think it's imparting anything of value as far as nutrients go that would be skin loving or that would help the bar's performance overall. So I don't think that there's a reason to be incorporating the solids except for the coloring, because as you could see with all of the different spinach, all the different oils that we did, that infusion was quite green. Will it stay quite green? Ultimately, so far it has. All of these soaps have cured for a month and they are still maintaining their green. This particular soap, the glycerin and the spinach juice itself, that did go orange. And we did talk about the differences in chlorophyll A versus chlorophyll B when we were making this soap specifically. And I don't think I really, got to the point of all of that. But ultimately, what I am thinking is that the inclusion of the spinach juice into the lye solution is neutralizing, because that has been used very coolly. Saponification with spinach has been used, or chlorophyll rather, has been used within like biodiesel production to essentially neutralize and extract chlorophyll A while killing off chlorophyll B, and because it's a very it's not the best chemical compound essentially. So it being gone and removed from the actual coloring, I do think that's going to be a better indicator that your bar is going to stay green for longer. And I think just the spinach juice itself, because it did not really go through the actual neutralization within the sodium hydroxide, because it wasn't in the solution, and I added it to the batter after the batters had traced. So saponification was already well on its way. The sodium hydroxide is already breaking down, forming new bonds. And so that spinach juice, I think, probably had more chlorophyll B in the second bar, which makes sense as to why it would go orange, because the chlorophyll B tends to. So this is the end result. They all look very orange here. I had an impossible time actually trying to find, filming the green was very, very difficult, but ultimately they all did look like pea soup. There was a very obviously green within all of it. Lovely color that did last throughout, the month that it's been curing in open air in front of a window. I will continue to watch these and see how long it takes for this natural colorant to fade. But ultimately, when you are dealing with any natural colorant, you are going to be dealing with fading over time. How much time? Super depends on how you're storing them. If you are at events, and you use natural colorants, I would absolutely recommend putting your soaps into boxes. If you want to do boxes, if you don't want to do boxes, fine. Keep them in a box underneath the table and only have a sample bar out, and only give it to your customers, when they purchase based off the sample, before moving all of your soaps out onto the table, just so they're not exposed to the direct sunlight that you may be experiencing within a booth event. As far as the lather tests go on all of these, this is the first bar. Again, the spinach juice as 100% substitution in the water. Delightful lather right off the bat. Nothing slimy about the hand feel. The lather felt beautiful and effervescent, almost tingly like champagne bubbles within my hand. And this one also felt that exact same way. Very, very delightful. Big lather payoff right away. I'm not having to manipulate this soap too terribly much to get the lather going. As I continue to manipulate it, the lather gets bigger and better. And so I do love that for sure. So the spinach juice is definitely going to be the better indicator of a good lather and anything that it could be contributing. So I would therefore say it's not ultimately going to contribute much to the lather itself per se, but this is an indication that these nutrients do exist within the soap that could be skin beneficial while you are washing your hand. So thinking about, over skin dryness and brightening and clarifying and all of the jazz that comes along with the benefits of spinach, you're going to be getting if you're using the spinach juice, as opposed to just the roughage that you would be getting from the solids. As we can see here, we're not getting the same bubble payoff right away. I'm having to work this soap much harder in my hands than I otherwise would have had to do with the other two. And this again is the soap that just has the infused roughage into the spinach, into the oils themselves, before I soaped with them. So I would say if you wanted to incorporate spinach primarily just as a colorant, yeah, sure, do it this way. But if you're wanting any of the benefits, any of the nutrients, any of the anything that comes along with spinach, I would recommend using the spinach juice, or even just throwing spinach leaves into your lye solution if you don't have a juicer with which to do that, because the the sodium hydroxide neutralization reaction is going to extract those with the heat and all of the jazz, just as well as doing the juicing. So Those would be my recommendations for sure. There's end result. This is a fast and dirty overall what we did with the 3 spinach, soaps. I hope you guys enjoyed this and thought it was, meaningful and fun and a different way to maybe recap everything that we learned throughout a spinach journey. But, let me know that in the comments. Back to my face. And there it is, all things spinach and soap and awesome. And yeah, no, the lather's super good. I do like the lather. I don't think it's much of a benefit as far as the lather that you could get from this recipe just generally. But as you could see, there is a difference between doing just the spinach infused oil recipe and the spinach juice. So I highly recommend doing it that way. If you want a big, bright, beautiful green, I think you can do it either way. Doesn't super matter. As far as bar longevity, don't think it's providing much of a benefit there. As far as overall skin things, sure, why not? And as far as using it for like hard water or whatnot, I ran tests. I mean, I made some hard water, and then I don't know if you guys even wanted to see it. And I didn't notice any discernible difference between this and this regular soap recipe without the spinach. So I don't think that I'm on to anything as far as using it as a sodium citrate hack. But I don't know. I did have to manufacture hard water in order to achieve this because I don't have it. You know what I mean? So if you use spinach in your soap recipes and you find that it's great for being a chelator and actually helping out like sodium citrate does, let me know. That'd be super awesome. And also let me know how you like this video and if this is a good idea to do at the end of all the things. I may or may not do it anyway, regardless of what you say, but I would like your feedback because you're here and this is why I'm here, for you. And I'm talking specifically to the sudsers. I'm here for the sudsers. I'm not here for any of the rest of you. If you want to be a sudser, you can click subscribe. You could comment below. You could come be part of the sudser family. That would be excellent. If you want to be a membered sudser, again, you can go to the join button, become a membered sudser. You can have access to the Discord. It's a great place. Nobody fights. They're all very helpful. It's a good time. We like it there. And if you want to do none of those things and just go on with your life, that's fine too. Awesome. Thanks for being here or whatever. But I'm going to go. I have a lot to do before tomorrow where we are going to be starting a new series of soapy tests with all kinds of weird fruits and veg and juicing and all the jazz. So I'm going to go do that. But I will see you guys again tomorrow for another round of soapy fun. Bye.